This is a retro game about the future, and the future is now. Outrun 2019 came out in 1993 exclusively for the Sega Genesis. The first time I saw it was in a Blockbuster video. I rented it, I thought it was okay, but I didn't enjoy it enough to buy it. Over the years I spaced on the game even existing. But on New Year's Eve 2018 it popped into my mind, so I decided that I needed to buy it. I'm not sure why they decided to go with 2019 instead of 2020. 2020 just seems more significant. But it's fun to think about the cars we have nowadays compared to how cars are depicted in this game. Pretty sure having a rocket booster on the back of your car is illegal, and I assume extremely expensive. Going almost 700 miles per hour doesn't really sound too appealing to me really. Or, possible. Outrun 2019 has Outrun elements, but doesn't really feel like an Outrun game. The booster is kind of annoying. It charges up once you reach full speed and just kind of launches your car from over 500 miles per hour to almost 700 miles per hour. It doesn't really look or feel like you're going almost 700 miles per hour, that's for sure. It just makes it so the car is less responsive and it almost always seems to boost at the most inconvenient times. You can tell when you're about to boost by watching for your power meter to flash, but that makes it so you're putting some of your focus on that when your focus should be on the actual racing. A quick tap of the brakes will make the boost stop. I can't say that I'm much of a fan of the boost mechanic. I would rather it just be a turbo power-up that you engage with the press of a button like in Turbo Outrun. There's a turbo light at the right bottom of the instrument panel, but it doesn't light up at all, and there isn't a button to activate it. It's just there for show, I guess. The instrument panel takes up roughly a third of the screen. It's a little distracting, and I think they could have toned it down a bit. That's just one of the many things that makes this game feel more like an upgraded Rad Racer 2 than it does an actual Outrun game. A big part of this game are the ramps. They're fun if you manage to launch off of one at full speed, but if you miss them, you're gonna have a bad time. Sometimes I found myself thinking that the cars were ramps and the ramps were cars, which was kind of a mindfuck. The car looks okay, I guess, but even with the rocket booster on it, it's just not as appealing to me as a Ferrari Testarossa. It looks a little like the Batmobile from behind, which is kinda cool, but also kinda lame knowing it's kind of a ripoff of the Batmobile when they were actually going for futuristic sci-fi. There are hidden paths that you can find with the ramps, if you can find them. The car pretty much always feels slippery and unresponsive. Be prepared to let off the gas and brake fairly often to correct the steering. I really like the path variety and I like what they did with the roads, but the backgrounds are a little boring and there isn't enough going on the sides of the road. Plus the other cars on the road don't put up much of a fight. In all fairness, it's more of a race against the clock than it is the other drivers. But that being said, this just isn't a very challenging game. I tend to play all games on the easiest difficulty first just to get used to it, then I step it up to normal and go from there if I feel like I'm up to it. But with this game the easy difficulty is too easy and the normal difficulty is easy. Just when I started to enjoy the game, it was over. There's only 4 stages so you'll blow through them really quickly. This game was originally going to be called Cyber Road and was going to be for the Sega CD. But then development was moved to the Genesis and the game was renamed Junkers High. The Outrun rights were obtained before it was released, so it's basically a generic futuristic racer with the Outrun name on it, which is why it doesn't feel like a real Outrun game aside from being able to choose your path by going left or right at the fork in the road and that you're driving a car. The soundtrack is severely lacking in comparison to most Outrun games and the sound effects are kinda meh. But with all criticisms aside, this is a decent game to play if you just want to sit down and play a game for 20 minutes or so. Maybe it's more fun in the hardest difficulty, I'll have to find out someday. If this game didn't have Outrun in the title, There's a good chance I would have never played it in the first place. Hard to say. Overall, this one's a little mediocre in my opinion. It's just okay, kinda meh. Just like I think the year 2019 will be. But you have to admit that it's hilarious that somebody thought a race like this would actually take place in 2019. Maybe a future Tesla will have a rocket booster. We didn't get flying cars in the year 2000, so we deserve a rocket boosted car in 2019 as a result. This has been Outrun 2019, a mediocre yet okay-ish game for the Sega Genesis.